Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. Hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far. And in the wake of the CDL Stage 1 Major, one team stands out as the worst team in the entire league right now. With Paris Legion making improvements, York Subliners find themselves a resounding 12th place in the league. Clayster and Crimsix as a result, seemingly having a bit of a falling out. One of them may well be dropped very soon indeed from the starting lineup. Very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed the video. Subscribe if you're new as always. I would greatly appreciate it. Really helps out the channel. Let's firstly dive into the pick'em stuff for this weekend. The Major 1 Fantasy for the Breaking Point side. This was the winning team. Congratulations to Guardian. He picked, as you guys might expect, Awakening, Dashy, Standy and Hydra was the best team. First place out of all users, so congratulations. We did make an attempt, right? Because of course Awakening had like a 1.6 and went out in the very first rounds. We tried to find ways to adjust that so that Awakening doesn't just dominate Fantasy, even though like he got first rounded. In future, we're going to have like a better multiplayer that gets this done. But like one of the reasons I picked Hydra in my Fantasy was because I thought he'd drop great numbers and go out first rounds. And then you don't have to worry about future performances. But yeah, in future, we are going to have like a better, more well-resounded multiplayer so that players that plays worse or better get like a percentage added or taken away to their actual fantasy score. We'll work on that for next time as well. But you know, for now, this is a pretty good strategy from Guardian, to be honest. Pick at these guys. Some of the teams this weekend certainly did not have the placing they wanted. Los Angeles Thieves being one of them. They end up top 6 on the weekend despite all the expectation going into it. But Subliners was a team that we kind of expected to lose anyway in the very first round. They were going to play either Toronto or Los Angeles Thieves. They played LA Thieves in the end. They got 3-0. In fairness, LA Thieves didn't dominate them. The game one was 250-230, I believe, on Gavutu hardpoints. The next couple of maps were pretty dominant, though, in favour of LAT. We'll talk about that in a second. This also just to mention, because, well, who knows if we're actually going to get a trophy for the next event for the Rokkr guys, if they're going to actually produce one, right? And this I thought was pretty crazy from Attach. Still waiting on the Major 5 trophy, right? I thought maybe last year they would, you know, if they're not going to actually do a trophy and give it at the event, you'd think maybe they did it after the fact, right? But yeah, apparently that's not the case with Attach and the guys. Not really sure what the CDL are playing at on this front, to be honest. Maybe something that could be addressed in an upcoming community update. But let's talk about the new York Subliners. So lots to talk about this a couple of days ago. The fact that, okay, on this image right here, we've got Royalty, Hydra, and Crimsix. No Clayster to be found as of yet. And yeah, what exactly are they going to do with this roster change? Because we imagine they've got to change something. It's unclear as to whether Crimsix and Clayster are going to remain on this team. To me, it seems kind of unlikely. I also kind of doubt that Royalty is still going to be there either. He seemed to be like kind of band-aid fix that obviously was never going to work anyway. We talked about this plenty of times on the channel, and this is what Clayster says after the event though. So as he describes, I've honestly refound my passion for COD and wake up excited to scrim every day. You'll know I ain't going out like this, minus setbacks, he says. So, you know, we can talk in the coming days or whenever this does get confirmed. If it does get confirmed, where he might go, what other teams might potentially look for his services. Right now, it's a question of whether he's actually still going to be on the squad, because as of now, he is. But, yeah, the whole benching discussion has been had between Clayster and the rest of the guys. Lots of people have said for quite some time now, can Crim and Clay actually work together on the same team in 4v4 on this type of a game? They could back in the day on like Call of Duty, Black Ops 2 and Ghost and stuff. Maybe in a game like World War II, it could have worked as well in a kind of more traditional boots on the ground type game with no sliding and this type of stuff. But in this game, with the way they are in their careers, doesn't seem like it's going to work. And in 5v5, it works because you had an extra star player in your team. Not really going to work as it is right now. But who knows what side of the equation Crimsix is on? Because yes, if Crim or Clay, one of those has to go, you've got to ask the question which one it's going to be. I thought this was kind of funny from a while ago. I thought I'd just mention it now because Clayster has a list here of all the intros Crimsix did on his YouTube videos back in the day, which I thought was pretty spectacular. I guess yeah, I could just zoom in for you guys to enjoy real quick while I just mentioned this Crimsix point. But yeah, I mean, so far Crimsix has probably been playing better than Clayster has, right? And Clayster as the main assault rifle hasn't really been performing that well. It seems to me that at this game, the main ARs that generally dominate and are better are probably less traditional main ARs. Like Crimsix is kind of a player that could maybe work in a main AR role, because Dashy seems to be the one excelling. Zero, like Arcitys, some players that have maybe faster pacing and maybe play less traditionally, like you know, Slasher, Clayster, these guys have struggled a bit more, as has Octane. So maybe a guy like Crimsix in the main AR position could work. Clayster is out of there, bring in a flex. There's definitely been a great deal of discussion about this, and according to Aches on the reverse sweep, they had a bit of a falling out before their series against Los Angeles Thieves, kind of like a verbal fight, an altercation in terms of like an argument on how they want to play the game. Of course, like that's to be expected from guys that know how to win and are so successful and are going to butt heads in that manner, but you know, probably gives credence to the idea that one of them is going to be out of there, and more than likely, according to Enable, it's going to be Clayster.
They need to make a change. I've seen on Twitter that supposedly Clay unfollowed NYSL, like there were some things going down, and it would suck. We don't know for sure if that's what they're doing, but it seems that way because we all know Clay. I know how Clay is.
There was a rumor that they Clay and Crim got in a fight Thursday before their game, not like a fist fight, but like a vocal argument. And
no, they was boxing. I did hear that. They was boxing. Wait, did they really? That's yeah. I believe it. When you, bro, they've always butted heads. Like, and you would know more than anyone. Obviously, times have changed, but they both have very strong personalities, and you know they have a certain direction in which they want to go when they lead their teams. But regardless, it comes down to that. I think Neptune should be brought back, which I'm assuming he is. Either Crim or Clay going, which I think at this point it's probably Clay. Yeah, I know they only played one series, but Clay and Royalty got absolutely bodied.
No, I think Clay is actually, I think he's getting benched. Or traded or something. I saw he like unfollowed NYSL and I don't know. Supposedly they both made it known that one of them had to go. Whether one of them gets dropped or like they just get traded.
So, of course, if Clayster is getting benched off the team, as Enable seems to believe he is, right, and if this kind of fight is true between Crimsix and Clayster, might it indicate that there's some sort of friction between those two players? Of course, like, I'm sure like they still have great respect for each other, but if this team wasn't working, it was kind of inevitable that there would be some sort of falling out between those two guys, I imagine. Just because, you know, history as players, right, it kind of makes sense. Now, look, if one of them is gone, for example, if Clayster is gone, then what do you do with Neptune? To me, I think you've got to make a two-person move. Hydra has to say you have to keep one of Clay or Crim. Probably you keep Crimsix based on current form, make Crimsix the main AR. Hydra stays there as one of the SMGs, Royalty's gone, Hydra and Neptune get on very well. I feel like you have to give Neptune his shot back in the team just because it's kind of clear that he wasn't the problem, so maybe you give him a go. He is sitting there on the bench. So let's say you do bring Neptune back, and there has been some rumours actually that Temp Gunner got put into Los Angeles Guerrillas as scrim for some reason, and apparently it was against the guys that Neptune was just playing in challenges and he wasn't there anymore, maybe indicating Nep is back in the starting lineup. And then of course you've got to have a fourth player, right? It's kind of a flex role that Crimsix was filling if Crimsix does become the main AR. The alternative is you pick up a new main AR, but that doesn't really seem like it's going to solve the pacing problems that this team very clearly has. So, well, who could that be as a potential flex player, right? Of course, Paul X was tweeting this out yesterday. He was a pretty solid player in the league last year, could fill a role like this. I'm sure there's some other options out there. aBeZy was talked about as well, a French player who's had pretty good success in the North American scene the last several years, and of course, well, him and Hydra, maybe that could work as a potential duo. Crim as the main, like, you know, aBeZy, Paul X, player like that as the flex, and then Hydra and Neptune back on the SMGs. That might be the plan they decide to go with, because right now it does not seem like Crimsix and Clayster are on particularly good terms, at least from what we've heard over these last couple of days. Definitely tweeting your thoughts on that, like what would you do if you're the New York management right now? What do you do if you're Clayster? Like, he seems very keen, he wants to keep competing, but maybe it will not be on the Subliners starting roster. Wanted to mention this as well, because a big discussion of the last few days has been the cursed setup on PC 7 on the LAN environment. So there's 8 PCs on the setup, the first 4 are on the left side, then it goes, I guess, 5, 6, 7, 8 on the right hand side. Now, seemingly the player who was in position 7, who was using PC 7, wasn't having the greatest time, especially on the Championship Sunday, dropping not particularly good numbers. Some people were suggesting that PC was bugged, it was cursed, there was something wrong with it, and like, don't get me wrong, it can be possible that some PCs are worse than other PCs. Like, as Insight says, right here, it was a breakdown for me, don't worry, it's that side to the Insight, that side of the stage is cursed 100%, apologies boys. So, seemingly that PC, some people were suggesting, wasn't particularly good.
Talking about the lag, like, we gotta talk about PC number 7, because apparently there's some
Yeah,
Is that the PC Arcitys was on?
yeah. That was
yeah. So let me pull it up really quick. There's actually a lot of people that were on that PC. I do remember though the stat from PC number 7. I got it right here. The overall stat, not counting grand final. So PC number 7 was on the right side of the stage. It was the third person to the right. Had a 0.8 KD before grand finals. That doesn't account for Alec in grand finals. Temp, Insight, Arcitys, TJ Halley, Drazah, Gizmo, Insight, and Gizmo as well. There was one more player. But yeah, and then obviously Alec in grand finals had the lag.
Now, people always used to talk about this back in the console days, that this PS4 was like a broken one or like just a worse console. And there may be some truth to this in the degree that there is a silicon lottery, like some chip, some processor that is technically as good as another one, at least in terms of the spec, actually might have more or less working transistors than the other one. So some PCs and some consoles are just going to be better than other ones. In the PC situation, it might even be more complicated, right? Because you've got more functions and more features and like the graphics cards and all this type of stuff, and some of it might go wrong and some of it could be a problem. However, when you look into this from a statistical perspective over the course of the weekend, you don't really see any of that actually transpire in reality. Now, the fact of the matter is this has pretty much been debunked by people who have looked into it, because the right side of the stage was generally reserved for the team with the lower seeds. So therefore, you'd expect the right side of the stage to do worse on average. You can see the KDs over the course of it, not particularly great. A 3-15 win-loss record makes sense if you look at the teams who they played. So London, FaZe, OpTic, Thieves, Boston, Ultra, LAG, and Surge. Those were the teams on the left-hand side of the stage. The right-hand side of the stage in general had the lower seeds. Therefore, if you look at the overall stats, PC number 7 isn't really any different to the rest of the PCs. I think on Sunday they had a particularly difficult time, but yeah, there's no real evidence, I believe, as of yet to prove that this PC had something dodgy with it. So I guess we can leave that to rest for now. But it's kind of a fun discussion, to be honest. I wonder if we'll continue to have this talk into Minnesota, even though I imagine the PCs are going to be very different, what they'll be set up with in that particular major. Just a couple of things to finish out the video. This from Teacher Hallie I thought was pretty fantastic. He meets definitely his twin right here. This is 16x9 Teach. This is 4x3 Stretch Teach. If you guys play CS or something like that, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. But yeah, you guys don't understand. I was tweaking when I first saw this. And yeah, just a couple of other things. This I thought from JP Crest was interesting as well. Only 3 hardpoints in history have ended by not one team not scoring 200. I don't believe there was another one that recently this weekend. There was, of course, in the series that OpTic played up against London in the very first one online. It was at Bacage. Both teams didn't get 200. It's only happened a couple of other times. It also happened when OpTic played Toronto in one of their most recent series, and then Splice versus Envy back in World War II on Ardennes Forest. So very rare that this happens. Bacage honestly is straight up just built different. And just this clip once again is the winning moment from OpTic Texas. Just pretty legendary stuff at this point. But very much intrigued to your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy it, hit on the like button. Tell us on YouTube, God, this is a good video. And I like you should see it as well. And I've grown the competitive Call of Duty community. Thank you for watching as always. Take care. And I will see you next time.